She needed it more. That's what my mother said, her voice flat as if I were a stranger asking about the weather. My name is Alyssa Quinn, I'm 31, and until that moment I believed loyalty was the currency that kept families whole. But while I was in Europe finalizing a $12 million deal that could fund generations, my parents pawned my car. Not just any car. My first purchase, my silent witness through long nights, my escape when silence at home turned poisonous. The kitchen smelled of burnt toast. My father sat at the table reading the paper as though betrayal were routine. My sister's framed diploma stared at me from the wall, her smile frozen in glossy arrogance. Your sister needed the money for her business, Mom repeated, not meeting my eyes. You'll understand one day. I wanted to laugh. Instead, I placed my passport on the counter, the ink still fresh from border stamps, proof of the work I had fought for alone. You didn't even ask me, I whispered. You were away, she said. The clock ticked louder than her words. I remembered the last thing my lawyer in Zurich had told me. Trust no one who treats your signature like free ink. I turned back to her, 6 words rising like smoke I could no longer hold in. When they left my lips, her face collapsed as though she'd seen the future unravel. Have you ever had family cross your boundaries? Let me know in the comments. The 6 words hung in the air like shards of glass. It was never yours to take. Her lips parted, then closed again as though she'd bitten into something sour. My father rustled his newspaper harder, pretending to read, though I noticed the tremor in his hands. My sister appeared in the doorway, hair pulled back in a sleek bun, the kind of confidence that feeds on entitlement. Don't make this dramatic, Alyssa, she said, slipping her phone into her pocket. It's just a car. You'll buy another after your big deal. Her tone was syrupy, but her eyes flicked toward the empty driveway outside. She knew exactly what she'd taken. I clenched the keys still hanging on the wall hook, useless now, stripped of their promise. They became my motif in that instant, a symbol of what had been stolen and what could still be locked away. Your car kept my company afloat, she added, smirking. You should be proud. Pride. That word stung. Pride was the reason I'd stayed up through nights of jet lag, the reason I'd fought through boardrooms filled with men twice my age, the reason I'd crossed oceans to close a deal worth more than anything our family had ever touched. And here in the house I once called home, pride was twisted into obligation. I placed the keys back on the hook slowly. One day, I said softly, you'll wish you had asked. But she just laughed, not realizing debts aren't always written on paper. That night I couldn't sleep in my old room. The air was heavy, stuffed with ghosts of posters long torn down, drawers that once held dreams I had outgrown. I lay awake replaying their words. Just a car. She needed it more. Be proud. At 3 a.m. my phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. You still wear that perfume? I sat up, heart pounding. It wasn't about the perfume, it was about intrusion. Someone had been near enough to notice. Someone watching. I traced the glow of the phone screen against the cracked mirror on my dresser. My reflection looked foreign, a woman caught between fury and restraint. The mirror became my second motif, fractured, distorted, refusing to lie. In the morning I walked into the kitchen. My sister was sipping coffee from a mug that once belonged to me. She scrolled through her emails with the calm of someone who thinks she's untouchable. Clients are responding well, she said casually. Your sacrifice made it possible. I didn't respond. Instead, I slid a thin folder onto the table. Contracts. Receipts. Proof of every cent tied to my European deal. My father's newspaper lowered an inch, curiosity peeking through the mask of indifference. This is what sacrifice looks like, I said. Numbers don't lie. People do. My mother's face tightened. My sister's smirk faltered just for a second, but it was enough. The mirror inside me cracked wider, reflecting truths they couldn't bury. By noon, the house felt like a stage set for a silent war. Papers spread across the kitchen table, contracts glinting under the sun as if they were weapons. My sister leaned against the counter, arms crossed, rehearsing arrogance. My father pretended to read again, but the paper trembled in his grip. You think paperwork scares me? My sister scoffed. I've already secured investors. Your car was just the start. Her words hit like ice water. The start. What else had they gambled behind my back? I leaned closer, lowering my voice. Investors don't back thieves. They back credibility. And I have the receipts. My mother cut in, voice sharper than I'd ever heard. Enough, Alyssa. Family share. That car was never just yours. The cracked mirror flashed in my mind. Never just yours. It echoed like a curse they had rehearsed for years. I opened my laptop. With a few keystrokes, financial documents filled the screen. Emails from Zurich, confirmation of my finalized deal, an account balance that made their betrayal look petty. You wanted me to sacrifice? I said. Fine. But don't confuse generosity with permission. Silence stretched. Then my father asked, quietly, almost pleading, What do you want, Alyssa? The keys still hung on the wall, mocking me. For the first time I saw them not as loss but as leverage. They were no longer useless. They were proof of what they had stolen. And I was ready to lock the door behind me. I walked out with the folder tucked under my arm, the keys still dangling on the hook behind me like an unanswered question. Outside, the driveway's emptiness stretched wider than asphalt. It was a wound. But wounds, when pressed, can become weapons. At the bank, I requested full documentation of the lien placed on my car. The clerk hesitated when my name appeared in bold as the registered owner. You didn't authorize this, she said carefully. Her glance flickered toward me, sympathy hidden under professionalism. No, I replied. I didn't. The file was thick with my parents' signatures, familiar handwriting twisted into betrayal. My sister's name was scribbled as beneficiary. I snapped photos of every page, the clicking sound like footsteps toward justice. Later, I sat in a cafe staring at the cracked mirror of my phone screen. My reflection seemed steadier now, shaped by resolve. I typed a message, deliberate and sharp. She needed it more? Tell her banks don't forgive theft. I didn't send it. Not yet. Some truths are best delivered when the stage is full, when every mask has an audience. Instead, I forwarded the documents to my attorney with one line: prepare to reclaim what's mine. The cafe door swung open. My sister's laugh spilled in, bright and careless. She hadn't seen me yet. Watching her glide to a corner table with two suited men, I realized the show had already begun. And I had the script. From my corner table I listened. My sister's voice carried, sweet, polished, rehearsed. My parents believe in me, she told the suited men. They even put assets on the line. That's how much faith they have. Faith. The word made my stomach turn. It wasn't faith, it was theft, dressed up in family loyalty. I let the scene unfold, her laughter punctuating promises she couldn't keep. Then I caught the flicker in one investor's eyes when he glanced at the documents in front of him. Numbers don't dance forever. My phone buzzed. A voicemail from my attorney. I played it with the volume low. Alyssa, I've reviewed everything. You have grounds to nullify the lien and file damages. Call me back. The timing felt surgical. I slipped my phone into my bag and stood, letting the chair scrape loud enough for her to notice. Her eyes widened. Alyssa. She masked surprise quickly, flashing a smile. This is my sister, the dealmaker I told you about. She's just back from Europe. The investors turned, intrigued. I met their gaze steadily. Did she also tell you her collateral is stolen property? My property. Silence froze the table. My sister's hand jerked, knocking her coffee over the documents. The dark stains spread like an unspoken confession. The investors excused themselves politely, leaving her with dripping papers and a crumbling smile. I leaned down, voice low. You wanted my keys. You just locked yourself out. Her perfume clung to the air, but the sweetness was gone. She followed me out of the cafe, her heels striking the pavement like gunshots. You humiliated me, she hissed. Do you know what you've done? I stopped under the awning, rain beginning to thread down around us. No, you did that. All I did was open the curtains. Her face twisted, but beneath the fury was panic. I'll fix it. I'll get another loan. With what collateral? I asked softly. You pawned trust and it doesn't buy back easy. The rain fell harder, blurring the streetlights into watery halos. A taxi splashed by, horn blaring, but neither of us moved. My phone buzzed again, another message from my attorney. I didn't need to check, I already knew the tone. I could drag you to court, I continued. But I'd rather you see the truth for yourself. That's a heavier sentence than any judge can hand out. Her eyes darted, desperate for a foothold. Mom and Dad will side with me. Maybe, I admitted. But contracts don't. And investors don't. And when their calls stop coming, you'll hear the silence louder than any applause. For the first time she said nothing. The rain dripped from her chin, washing the last of her defiance into the gutter. I turned, walking away with the folder pressed tight against me. The cracked mirror in my bag shifted with each step, its fractured reflection a reminder. Some things break so we can see clearly. Justice wasn't in the gavel. It was in the echo of her silence. The following week, my attorney met me in his office, papers neatly stacked like dominoes waiting to fall. He slid a document across the desk. Lien voided. Assets restored. Damages filed, he said simply. I traced the signature lines with my finger. Their handwriting, my parents', my sister's, looked smaller here, stripped of power. Walking out, I felt no triumph, only clarity. Revenge hadn't been about fire or ruin. It had been about drawing a line where they thought none existed. At home I found my parents waiting. My mother's eyes were red, her hands trembling. My father finally folded his newspaper as though surrendering after a long siege. She needed it more, Mom whispered again, but this time it wasn't conviction, it was regret. I placed the cracked mirror on the table between us. Its fractured glass reflected all three of us, pieces never quite aligning. This is what happens, I said quietly, when you confuse love with leverage. For once they didn't argue. Silence, the kind that carries weight, filled the room. I walked away without raising my voice, without slamming a door. Quiet revenge leaves the deepest imprint. Later that night I hung the reclaimed keys by my front door. They no longer symbolized loss. They were proof that what's stolen can be taken back and what's broken can be seen more clearly. If this ever happened to you, just say, same in the comments.